35 to 36. It was autoimmune after all, so maybe it was self-induced. After I completed and passed my exams for my first year at uni, this gave me a certificate in health and social care and psychology. To be honest, I'm not sure how I got to the end. The 3-hour written exam left my right hand seized up for hours. All the exams and the finals fell into the summer holidays and just after the summer holidays. So studying during the summer holidays was just incredibly intense. It was impossible, really. At that time, all my kids' friends would all be here too, sometimes up to 15 of them. Declan's girlfriend at the time was having issues with her family, and so somehow I ended up fostering her. I was doing the best I could, but it was never good enough, as every duke in our family was always mine and mine alone, and there was just no possible way I could maintain everything and please everyone. So I took time out of uni, hoping to return one day and complete my degree. At this point I was also going through appeals to get disability benefits, and that had been ongoing for 3 years. The majority of my adult life I've survived on less than the basic standard of living that the benefit system awards. I had Declan lived with his dad. I didn't get any money coming in for him, but obviously his girlfriend lived here, so Declan would be here every day as well, and then often several of his friends as well, and then the 2 younger ones and their friends would all be here. They didn't even know or comprehend that I was trying to feed and house and clothe us all on £100 a week. I've had my money stopped at least a dozen times until the benefits office put 8 years worth of anonymous reports against me together and realised that someone was maliciously reporting me, and that every time I'd been investigated I'd always been proven innocent of any wrongdoing. I'd also been snitched up multiple times to social services, who had investigated me also, found me innocent, although very under stress. I mean, I'd even asked social services to help me at one point myself, where I was like, I don't think I'm coping very well as a mum with the 4 kids and the fact that I'm on my own and I need help. And they were like, no, you don't need help, you're fine. But like, obviously once someone else puts in a report against you, they then investigate you fully. Well, they investigated me fully numerous times, and yet they even knew about that I'd had drug issues and that. But they also came, they met my kids and they were like, these kids are well loved, they feel safe with their mum, they are looked after. I would go hungry and feed my children as much as, like, I'm not saying that I'm perfect in any way, shape or form, and I know that I made some big mistakes in my life, but my kids have never ever felt unloved. There is a lot mistaken judgments and assumptions made because of, if I was a drug addict, that means that I must have been a bad mother. Not necessarily. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I love my kids. I'm happy with who they are. Most part it was my kid's dad would constantly snitch me up, alongside believing he had the rights to full access for fun with his children, but also that he shouldn't have to pay me to look after them. I'm not sure what he thought he would achieve by keep grassing me up, because he didn't want custody. He never even tried to get custody when I was, lost the custody of the older 2, and he could, at that point in time, he could have won custody easily if he'd gone for it, because I was a wreck, and I'd just lost the boys, so, they would have happily given the kids to him at that point, especially as he lived a fine life with his parents, a nice big house and no bills to pay, lovely little family life. He never even could handle the whole week in the summer holidays he was meant to have by his court order, like access arrangements. He lived with his parents with nothing to pay out. He was working off the books so as he didn't have to pay, like, he could claim benefits and say that he didn't have to pay maintenance because he wasn't working. His parents did all the work around his house, and they cooked for my kids while he went out and took them out playing at the park and going out on day trips and stuff like that. His car was fully paid for by them. He had no idea. I don't understand, why does it work in his head that he would want his kids to suffer their life with me? My boys don't live with me, they didn't live with me, but I still used to take them to the football tournaments, and I'd have to go without during the week to save enough money to take them to the football at the weekend, because that was my time with them. I didn't want my boys to, I took part in anything to help my boys get through their life. It didn't matter that they didn't live with me. I weren't helping their dad, I was helping them. I don't understand where he thinks that if he was to give me money to look after the kids, that he would be giving me money. No, you'd be making your kids' lives better. That's what you would be doing, and you've got a much better life than they have, and you don't even appreciate it. Anyway, he'd take them out to play and have fun, while Mummy and Daddy were at home cooking the dinners and cleaning the house and making it all lovely. He had no clue how lucky he was and how much I wished I could spend such quality time with my children. I could never afford to do anything with them. He had won full regular access in court. When I lost my sons, I only won a third of the access that most separated dads get. I also then only had enough in benefits to feed the 2 children I had custody for. So when I did have the boys and kids at home for the weekend, like I'd have alternate weekends, and I'd just get the one night, whereas they'd always get the 3. I never wanted to waste my time with them by arguing, so I was a very soft parent. I did everything for my kids. You know, my mum was the polar opposite. My mum and stepdad were really quite strict, had 100 rules for me to follow. I never felt very much that I was good enough. I had to do a hell of a lot of chores and stuff like that. So I never wanted to do any of that with my kids. I'd done exactly the opposite. And a lot of people have criticised me about that and said that I should be more strict. But, you know, it was my time with my kids. I didn't want to argue with them. It was so rare that I actually spent any quality time with them that wasn't based on schools and school meetings and important stuff that we had to go and do. It was, you know, I'd done all the hard work. I did everything for my kids. I never taught them to look after themselves. That was my job. I never expected them to do chores, and I rarely punished them. I've always felt it better to talk to them and explain how I feel and why things are right or wrong. But my kids have turned out better than I ever could have expected, and I'm very proud of each and every one of them. I got something right. My kids are lovely, absolutely lovely. You know, I've had people say to me, "Oh, you should have had the kids taken away from you." Blah, blah. No. Obviously not, because they've all turned out really well. They're, you know, I really am very, very proud of them. I had no choice at this point but to stop fostering my son's girlfriend. It was just too much. I couldn't cope anymore. So I sent her back to her family. I knew something was wrong. So I went to the doctor. I saw a different GP, and he was so understanding. And he wanted to get to the bottom of what was wrong with me. Thank the Lord for him. And right now I'd just like to thank the Lord, full stop, because I think this is the point at which my life went from being a complete wreck to making sense and getting help. The help that I actually needed, not the judgments and assumptions that people had been making. So with this newfound support and a medical professional who really wanted to make me healthy, I felt confident enough to tell him everything. I had been having problems swallowing. I felt like I had lumps in my throat. Of course, I was probably panicking like cancer, thinking cancer. With my past history, my family history, and as a smoker, I guess it's the thing we all fear, right? I've had many people comment about me, or even to me, that they think I brought all my health issues on myself by abusing my body. And if that were the case, they would all have the same diseases as me. I've researched enough to know there is no links between my health issues and drug abuse. Like my nanny Grace had it, and I don't think she was off raving and taking drugs. There's 2-year-olds out there diagnosed with this disease, and unfortunately it's a horrible, horrible disease. But I don't think drugs is the connection. Smoking, it has a connection though. You know, many of those people also smoke and sit down the pub a lot. If I had like cancer, hepatitis or HIV, then, you know, any of those sort of diseases that can come from this sort of lifestyle, bearing in mind I didn't inject drugs, I never injected drugs, so, you know, a lot of those aren't even applicable. But yeah, I could see the link if that was one of the diseases that I had, but it's not that, so. So yes, it is self-induced in that my own body has malfunctioned and my immune system is now attacking healthy body parts instead of the infections and cancers that it should be attacking. Whilst my gallbladder issue was going on, I had lymph nodes in my neck. I was like a Frankenstein. I'd have like this bit here would stick right out of my neck like this. And they had said that that was like part of the reaction to the infection raging in me with the gallbladder, and that should obviously go away once I'd had the surgery and recovered. By the August 2013, new lumps had grown in my throat down around my voice box. They were bothersome, making swallowing and breathing difficult. Like I could actually like feel it right here, and it was all like it started and it was like a couple of days with one lump, and then I felt another one here, and then another one here, and then another one here. Like my whole throat felt enclosed with lumps. So I couldn't breathe properly, I couldn't swallow properly, I couldn't drink, eat, all, like I was really struggling with it. The wonderful GP, who wanted to make me better, sent me to the hospital for an ultrasound scan of my throat, and the sonographer was like shocked. He was like, I can't believe you've never had a thyroid blood test. Your thyroid is destroyed in every way possible. That's the issue, that's why you're so ill. That they seemed to be benign lumps and that it wasn't cancerous, so I could be grateful for that, right? That's wrong. It wouldn't have been any better or worse if it had been cancer. I had no idea what I was heading into with this whole autoimmune me. So off I went for my thyroid blood test, which showed I had the antibodies that meant I had autoimmune Hashimoto's hypothyroidism. My TSH was 97 and it should optimally be between 0.3 and 3.5. My free T4 was 0.6 and should have been optimally between 9 and 25. I was almost medically comatose by this time. I was asleep for 20 out of 24 hours every day. I was begun on synthetic thyroid hormone straight away and referred to an endocrinologist. The Fab GP sat me down and told me that my thirst for knowledge would bode me well with this disease. He recommended that I go and learn everything I could about thyroid disease. He said many GPs have very little education in thyroid disease, and that was reserved for the specialist education. So I dutifully did so. I went away and learned everything. When I met the specialist, I realised even more so just how much I was going to need to deal with this on my own. The endo was awful, the only endo in the whole area, and he honestly had zero interest in treating me as a person or my symptoms. It was incredibly frustrating. The guy was obviously specialised in diabetes side of endocrinology and had very little interest in thyroid. He behaved like thyroid disease was just nothing to be worried about, but my own research had already taught me so much more, and I think it's a real tragedy that more respect and understanding is not given to us in this disease. If you search the internet, you realise how many millions of people are suffering because of this. There is one medication in the UK for this disease. They've never tried to change it or improve it on its efficacy. Learning about it, a light bulb flicked on for me. No wonder I struggled so much. The symptoms were all there, and then some. I was 8 stone and a size 8 at this period of time. All the panic attacks and everything that I'd been having in the sort of year leading up to this, I was having some severe anxiety and panic attacks and agoraphobia, and this was getting out of hand for me. And of course they always send you away with antidepressants, and it wasn't that, it was the thyroid. Now the thyroid, while the thyroid was being destroyed, was going up and down, and when I was having like the palpitations and that and thinking, oh God, I'm having a panic attack, I probably actually was, my heart was going boom, 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 because my thyroid was running out of control. But nobody thought to test me, nobody thought to actually look at me as a human being that needed help. Thing is, the levo was begun and increased until my blood test started to come into range, though here in the UK our ranges can seem huge in comparison to the range that research and patient experience has proved optimal. I was aching and tired and getting increased carpal tunnel symptoms in my left hand, and whatever this pain was happening in my right hand. I generally felt like I was half dead, but as long as the bloods were okay, it was deemed that the meds were working. I started to wonder and questioned it on many health forums. Does levo cause arthritis? Of course the answer was no. But having Hashimoto's as an autoimmune disease did seem to come hand in hand. Once you have one, more tend to follow. Every hobby I once enjoyed I was now finding a chore. Pain and exhaustion was taking the fun out of life. I felt like I was just plodding along, waiting to get better. I'll go on to that in the next part. Much love, guys. Breathe easy.